Welcome to Sex on the Floor podcast. This podcast was created to help educate the public about problems with sex and intimacy and how this is tied to both physical and mental aspects. Hosted by myself, Dr. Molly Hart, a passionate pelvic floor physical therapist and owner of Pelvic Balance Physical Therapy, and by Dr. Katie Schubert, a phenomenal sex therapist and owner of Cypress Wellness Center. We are here to have a good time. We're here to keep it real with you all and to educate along the way. I'm so excited for you to join us. We strive to help many relationships prosper in fun, safe, and healthy intimacy. While listening to the show, please remember that this information is not meant to diagnose or treat any medical conditions. Please speak with your medical provider for all things related to your healthcare. Hello, all. Welcome back to Sex on the Floor podcast. It is Dr. Molly Hart and Dr. Katie Schubert here again for another fun episode of Who Knows What. No.
Really.
But no, so today what we're going to be hitting on is, I'm sure some of you who are listening to this podcast maybe know the book Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. I'm not saying her last name right at all. How do I say her last name?
Sounded good to me.
Okay, well, it's going to be good enough. By the way, I always butcher things. So if you're listening, just expect that with me, and I don't really care. You can correct me, but I've been corrected my whole life. It's not going to get any better. That's my dyslexic brain. It does its best. Anyways, she has 3 books, and Come As You Are is her very first one. And so I'm really diving deep into these books because I need to, considering what I do for work. But I have been making little handouts and stuff for my patients. I'm trying to condense it down because there's a lot of information in there that so many women, if you are a reader, read this book. It is life altering. If you're dealing with difficulty with intimacy with yourself, with your partner, read this book. It's that good. But there's one concept so far that she's gone over. It's pretty soon in the beginning of the book that's called brakes and accelerators. And I want this episode today to be focused on that because intuitively, I've always known this, and maybe so have you, those who are listening, but this is the research and the actual terminology behind the brakes and accelerators and understanding why is it that so-and-so seems to have such a high libido and always wants to have sex, and why do I never want to have sex? What's wrong with me? And I want to get that out of your mind because we all have different desires for intimacy, and it's always going to be a changing pendulum. So it's not the same. If I'm always horny doesn't apply all the time. Maybe I was before I had kids, maybe I'm not anymore. Maybe I was in this relationship, maybe I'm not in this relationship. So it's important to not label ourselves, and instead we're going to go over brakes and accelerators so you can understand why you're behaviorally motivated or completely not motivated to want to be intimate. So we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah.
So, anything you want to add, Katie?
Everyone always asks me, what book would you recommend us read? And that's always my number one choice for couples.
Yep.
And usually when they read it, that's the part of the book that they come back to me with. Well, I just realized that I have really sensitive brakes.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of accelerators going on in my relationship. The interesting thing is that a lot of the brakes and accelerators in your life are non-sexual things. So it's not like foreplay is an accelerator, right? It's all of the non-sexual things that happen throughout the day that are your brakes and accelerators.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important part to consider right off the bat.
Yeah. So what do we mean by brakes and accelerators? So I'm looking at her book. I wanted to there is a researcher who came up with this, and I was trying to find their name, but I can't find it. It's called the dual control model to help people understand how their sexuality works. Dual control model. I don't remember the person who came up with this. I was trying to find their info. But in her book, like something she'll just kind of reading a little bit from it is first, accelerators and brakes are traits that you are born with that remain more or less stable over time. So I want to start there. These are traits that we are born with that remain relatively stable over time. Okay, that's really cool to understand because if we understand our own brakes and accelerators, we understand ourselves. That's what that means. So there are people who are really sensitive, have really sensitive, what we call accelerators. So an accelerator is something that's going to make you want to be intimate, makes you have this sexual need or desire. Some people are very not sensitive. So if we think about a sensitivity scale, you can be really high on that sensitivity of accelerators and you can be really low on that. Accelerators are completely in their own box. And then we've got the brakes. These are not the same. The brakes, you can have very sensitive brakes to not wanting to be intimate. Brakes meaning, like, I don't want to think about sex. I don't want to be intimate. Don't touch me. Leave me alone. Some people are really sensitive and some people are not sensitive. So let me give a couple of examples. Let's pretend we have somebody who has really sensitive accelerators. And I'll give some examples of what those accelerators are in a little bit. They have really sensitive accelerators and they have really desensitized brakes. So their brakes are really low. That person is going to be what our society would deem as somebody who is always like very turned on, easily wants to have sex. They're probably going to have a very active, maybe even chaotic sex life. They're probably going to take a lot of risks. They might be somebody who cheats a lot. They might be somebody who's deemed even like a sex addict. Like these are terms that society is going to maybe call this person. Unless they can have some control over it. You could also have somebody who has really desensitized accelerators and really sensitive brakes. So think about that. If I've got sensitive brakes, that like makes me not want to be intimate, and I have not very sensitive accelerators, I'm somebody who's not going to want to be sexually intimate very often. And society may call us asexual. And there's a lot of different terms. Those are people who are probably more so coming to see a sex therapist, I would assume, Katie. I don't know. Because those are the individuals who are typically seeking therapy and care most because it's more of a problem as far as being able to be in a relationship.
Yeah, I think the people that I see most, well, I work a lot with couples, is when people don't understand the brakes and accelerator analogy, or if they have different brakes and accelerators,
Yes.
right? Like for instance, if one partner is trying to connect sexually with their partner with the use of these things and it's just not working.
Yeah.
It means that you're not necessarily speaking your partner's language in terms of like sexual intimacy. And it happens a lot. Something that I see a lot in couples that both work outside the home, specifically like heterosexual couples where there are a lot of like societal standards about like women's work at home and men's work at home. And we're getting away from a lot of those scripts, but at the same time, like they're still in the back of our heads. Like moms need to
Yeah.
cook dinner, they need to give the bath, they need to get ready for bedtime. Even when both people are working outside the home. So what I see a lot in these heterosexual couples where these gender scripts are still present in the back of our head is that the male partner just isn't doing like their quote unquote like fair share of uh household labor. And when they pick that up, that can be an accelerator for a lot of women. Like a lot of the burden is taken off of women. They don't feel like they're stretched, working 8 hours outside the home, coming home and doing all of the household labor. So that's one thing I see a lot. And when I use a terminology that we're talking about here to explain it, it just clicks. A
Yeah.
lot of what psychology is being able to explain something simply so that people can understand what's happening in their head. Because when you're living inside your head, it can feel pretty chaotic and you might not know what's happening. So books like this one, The Come As You
Yeah.
Are, and
It's
being
so
able to
good.
use these terminologies help people kind of categorize what's happening in their life so that they can fix it.
Right. Yeah. And that's a good example. I think that's like probably a main example with heterosexual couples is the gender script roles. I was just having a talk. This is like a little side note, but I was just having a talk with a lactation consultant yesterday because I co-share my space with a lactation group here, and I was hearing her talk to the mom that was in the room, and I could tell that the mom was struggling with being in tune with her baby and her body when it came to breastfeeding, and her and I were talking how when you can truly understand yourself and be more in tune with yourself, with your baby, how so many things in parenthood are just so much easier. And a lot of times, first time moms, that's harder because we don't trust ourselves. But when we go to like a relationship, we bring that back to the fact that now we're in a society where we're saying, hey, we don't have to follow these gender scripts anymore. There's so much freedom to that. And for somebody like myself, I love that. Because I wouldn't want to fall in the stereotypicals. Like just naturally, I don't want to do that. So it gives me the freedom to live the life I want to live. There's a problem with it too, though. And the problem with it, it's not a bad problem, but it is a problem, is that there's a lot of us who do not know how, we don't know ourselves. We don't intuitively understand like what it is that I need and I want and I desire. So when we get outside of gender roles and we're not using those scripts anymore, that requires also two people who know themselves and know what they want and know like what their skill is and how they can contribute to a relationship, and communicating with one another. How are the dynamics of our relationship going to go outside of these scripts? Because we can rewrite it, and there's so much freedom and beauty to that, but it also requires two individuals who are capable of doing that. And I do think that that's where our society is kind of in a struggle right now, is not knowing, well, how do I want my dynamic to go? And so what ends up happening is a lot of the times women are overburdened with way too many things because we're just doing all these things with the typical gender script, but also trying to do the things that we innately maybe want to do. Like maybe we want to have a career, maybe I want to go socialize out here and do this and do that, but I can't do all of that and do all the stuff at home and not feel like beyond stress and burdened. And then my husband's still just doing his basic gender role over here of just providing. That creates problems. So, anyways, that was kind of like a little tangent. But I do think that plays into a lot of the low libido that we label ourselves as women when we're moms. Uh,
Yeah. No, that's
because
all really good. It's so hard. I tell a lot of people this, but a huge part of like the therapeutic process is undoing a lot of what people have learned in our society.
yeah,
Um, because we're not taught to know ourselves sexually. Like even couples that I see who have been married for decades, when I ask them like what turns you on, or what kind of intimacy, or what do you need in this relationship to feel connected to your partner? A lot of people don't know the answer to that question. They're like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I like sexually. I don't know what connects me sexually to my partner. I don't know what connects me intimately with my partner, because that's just not something that is asked of us in our upbringing to like explore. Our sexuality as Americans is so incredibly suppressed, and also I would argue demonized.
yes,
And that, people steer clear of any kind of self-exploration as it has to do with sexuality or, sexual relationships.
yeah. It's really sad to me. It's really sad to me because I did not grow up like that. Like it's funny because I realize how weird I am with how I grew up because I grew up in a very spiritually like religious household. Like I'm so close to God, and I love biblical principles, but I also love sex and I love talking about it, and I love like I have just I just enjoy that part. But to me, religion in the Bible doesn't need to suppress
Mm.
sex, but that's what's happened. And
Yeah.
why we've done that. You want to know why I think we've done that? Because sex is so awesome and so fun that it is like it can be. That in order to control us to quote unquote not do bad things, not cheat, don't sin, don't have adultery, don't do this, we're just going to suppress and act like sex is so bad, and we're going to suppress and don't talk about it, and then that'll prevent people from doing it. But that is like the worst thing that we could have done, actually, is to suppress something that is actually so beautiful. And so now we have a lot of problems about intimacy and talking about it. And so now we get married and we're like, whoa, how do we talk about this? Whoa, how do we explore this and not feel weird or guilty? Because society has not given us permission to do that. It's starting to, I think society's starting to give us more permission.
Yeah,
Things have
possibly. I mean,
changed.
the amount of, I mean, it's really interesting that we're talking about this because the amount of religious trauma that we see coming in to our group practice is insane. Like, I need to hire a therapist that only deals with religious trauma. Because religion, in my opinion, and again, this is all my opinion, and I
Yeah.
understand that like people have other things that they believe in, but I feel like the like organized religion has really gotten away from its true intentions.
It
And
has, yeah.
the way that organized religion treats sexuality, I feel like the reason why it treats sex and bodies, sexual bodies, the way that it does is because when you shame someone, they become a really easy person to control, right? Like if
Yeah.
someone feels ashamed about their body or their sexual experiences or their identity, um, they then become a pretty easy person to control. And the institution of religion, in my opinion, has become about control and not about the principles that a lot of religious people, perceive
Yeah.
it.
I know, I agree. I just think in general, this is what something I've been working through myself is that I find so fascinating. So I am just I love the Bible and the scripture so much. I really do. And there's a lot of symbolism in there, but when we think about it, it says God created. It's the first thing it says, God created. So he created us in his image, so we're creators. Um, but he's not controlling us, right? So like he made us and we're these incredible beings that can do incredible things and think for ourselves, all this, but he does not control us. There are principles laid out of like, hey, here's some principles of wisdom. Main thing being like love one another. I mean, what the most beautiful thing in the world to me. Um, that he is saying, hey, if you live this way, you can have a really incredible life. And I do believe that. I do see that. If you follow a lot of the principles in the Bible, I do see that you can have some beautiful things. But to follow it because your heart wants to follow it because you're just wanting to do that is very different than being controlled and saying you have to do this, this, and that. It's not the same. We're also all we are all not perfect. We're all quote unquote broken. We're not meant to be perfect. We're all gonna quote unquote sin in different ways. That's just part of who we are, and that's normal. And we just need to love and accept ourselves for that. And so, to me, to shame any part of who we are as humans is just it's just not it's not necessary. We don't need to be doing that. Um, and sex specifically, for whatever reason, has just gotten so controlled and demonized and shamed. Women's bodies, like being covered up, has gotten so shamed and demonized and covered up, and it's so ridiculous because there's just no need for that. It is a control thing, and we need to get away from that. When I even think about politics and like the things that we're doing with politically to control society, why do we think that we should control one another? That is mind blowing to me. I'm like, if for me, I view God as my creator. He's my creator. He's not controlling me. My creator is not controlling me, but then other people are going to try to control me. That's interesting to me. I don't think we should be trying to control one another. We're all trying to figure out life and do our best. But sex specifically, I think is like one of the greatest gifts um that we were given to have with one another. Like I just think there's what is more special truly like with another person that you love. What is a more special thing that you've done with somebody than like if you think about like the best sex you've ever had? I'm serious. Like what has been more fun than that?
Yeah, I mean it's a great point. It takes a lot of unbrainwashing, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we're taught to believe all these things, and it's really hard. And I think that a lot of the reason is because we're like a Christian-based society. So
Yeah.
Molly and I have very different opinions about
I
religion.
know, which is why I actually like that because I'm like I think it's so good that we have a podcast together because I feel like it hits. I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's so good to hit on like the scope of all the different things
Yeah.
that people can think. And we're only still just two people. There's still.
I know so many other viewpoints and perspectives. But yeah, I think, by my very nature of work, I am positive I have become like tainted to organized
Yeah,
religion because I hear all the stories of like religious trauma and all the ick
I know.
associated with the organization. So it's
There's a
hard.
lot of ick.
There's a lot of ick. Yeah, and there's a lot of damage
Yeah.
that's done to people because of the organization. Um, but I hear what you're saying, and I think there's a lot of validity to what you're saying. It's unfortunate that people have lost sight
Yeah.
of.
You know what though ultimately it comes down to though, Katie, is if you think about it, this is just my thoughts. Everything that humans touch has a lot of ick. Like really though, like
So true.
government, government, a lot of ick.
Yeah.
Um, each political party, so much ick. Every organization that you can think of that's supposed to be the greatest organization on the earth, that's supposed to do the greatest things in the world, they all have so much corruption and ick. Because in all reality, we are human and we are not perfect. And we do unfortunately succumb to greed and power and ego and all these things. And so anything, even if it's intended for good, it's gonna have ick on it because humans are in charge of it. So
Very
like that's how I view it. So I'm like, yeah, organized religion has so much ick, so much ick. The problem with organized religion with this ick is that there's so much power. The problem with politics with its ick is that there's so much power. The problem with the police force with their ick is they have so much power. Doctors who do bad things is because they have so much power with their ick. That's where like the disgust and we're like, ew, like what are you doing? And that's why we have so much like fight in us, I think, to be like, whoa, you can't do this with
Yeah.
law enforcement. You can't do this politically. Like, we're like, what are you doing? Even though
Hmm.
I don't think it'll ever stop, but
Yeah. I think we say all this to say,
yeah, I
like,
know we're like little
trying
tangents.
but I think it all relates though, because we're
Yeah.
talking about like the brakes and accelerators. And in our society, there are so many reasons for brakes to exist and for brakes to be very, very sensitive. Whether or not it's how you grew up or the messages that you learned about your sexuality or your sexual body or your identity in some way. There are so many breaks. So
Yep.
breaks are really easy to access in our society. It's the accelerators that people have problems with typically. Well, in my line of work, it's the accelerator.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Well, let's give some examples of breaks. So like I'll give an example of a break. And you know what's interesting too, and I love that she says this because I just love it. If you're in a stress response,
Hmm.
accelerators becomes brakes. Okay. Hear that again. If you are in a stress response, majority of accelerators now become brakes. So what does that mean? I'm married. I have no kids. I'm laying in this beautiful bed with my husband, and he rolls over and he rubs my shoulder and he rubs my back, and I'm just like, ooh, I just get turned on. I love when he touches me like that. And we end up having just like awesome, passionate sex. All right, fast forward 3 years. I have a baby. I just gave birth. We have a 3-month-old baby. I'm laying in the same bed. My husband rolls over. He strokes my back. Okay, same accelerator. This time my body recoils. Oh, don't touch me. Internally, I look over, I touch him, I say, not tonight. Because internally, why? I haven't slept in months. My body, I'm in a body I don't love, I don't like, I haven't accepted it yet. It hurts, it aches. My breasts are leaking milk. I just got done feeding the baby. I've been touched out. I've been with my baby all day. They're finally sleeping for like a small 2-hour stretch. I get this teeny little break to lay here. Get the F away from me. Not
Yeah.
tonight. Okay,
Uh,
same accelerator, right?
mhm.
Um, but do you see all the breaks? What are the breaks? And the last environment, there was no baby. We were rested. We had no stressors around us. And this other one, there's a million stressors. There's a million breaks that are just tugging at this mom. Doesn't want to do it. But then the husband, interestingly, is going through the same experience and he doesn't have those breaks. Well, because he might not be sensitive to those brakes. And he might have a really sensitive accelerator. And we do know from the research from what Emily presents is that men do have typically, most of us, by the way, are in the middle. None of us are like extremes on either of these from what the research has indicated. But men do typically have more sensitive accelerators and less sensitive brakes, and we typically have more sensitive brakes and less sensitive accelerators, which we can societally see that a lot of the times as well. But that's an example of brakes and how even accelerators can become brakes when we're in a stress response. So there's one thing she had said. I want to read this. I thought it was so good. Oh, and I want to go over that too. There's something else I just saw that I want to read. She said, so this is like her having a conversation with somebody. So how do I stop hitting the brakes? How do we stop hitting the brakes, guys? She says that's the $1 million question. So the short answer is reduce your stress, be affectionate towards your body, let go of false ideas of how sex is supposed to be. I think that's the biggest problem that we have in society is like we have this idea what sex is supposed to be like. And create space in your life for how sex actually works for you and your partner.
Hmm.
Is that everybody's different. Um, and then the other thing is so that's examples of breaks. Do you have any other examples of breaks you want to go over, Katie?
I mean, those are fabulous examples. I mean, it really just depends on whatever it is that's going in your life and causing the stressors. Like if it's a lack of time to yourself, if it's kids, if it's, a messy house, like it can
Uh,
be if it's
yeah.
your partner's breath, like it can be so many different things. It's really anything that gets in between that sexual connection or
Yeah.
that or even the intimate connection. Like if you're like, I don't feel close to you right now. Like we got in an argument this morning and now I don't like you today. So
Yeah.
the last thing I want to do is for you to touch me intimately. So it could be anything sexual or non-sexual.
Yeah. And then what's so great about this is when you understand your own sexual acceleration breaks and you understand your partner's sexual accelerators and brakes, you can understand why one person might want to be intimate and the other person might not want to. And it gets rid of that feeling of rejection. So if you're the one who's always getting rejected, it can start to hurt and feel like, oh, like, why doesn't my partner love me? Why doesn't my partner want me? When it really has nothing to do with that. They're just in their own little world. And so we can help each other. Because oftentimes I think when people come to see you is there's a huge disconnect with each person with
Yeah.
their accelerators and their brakes, correct?
Yeah, but it could have to do with your partner, right? Like it could be
Yeah.
personal. Like it could be that like your partner's an asshole to you.
Yeah, but
Like
that's a break. I would say that's a break.
right, right. But like in terms of like rejection, I think it's important to differentiate when it's not about your partner and when it is about your partner.
Ah, I
Like
see.
it can be very partner specific and it could be not partner specific at all. So it depends on what's happening. Like if there's a lot of conflict in your relationship and the way that you guys fight is just trash, you name call, you gaslight, you do all of the bad things. There's no way that you're going to be having happy, healthy sex
Yeah,
with
you're
your,
not. No.
right? So like some of it is partner specific, some of it's not. So some of the breaks are related to your partner and some of them aren't.
Yeah. I would say a lot of the times the breaks are related to the environment in which you're in. Your partner's in your environment. So they're playing a role. I mean, if your house is
Yeah.
messy and you're doing if you're working and doing majority of the child care, let's say, or majority of the cooking and the cleaning, and your partner's not, well, that's the environment in which you're in. You're burnt out and you are going to get resentful, and that's a break. So now you
Yep.
see another load of laundry you need to do, and your partner's just sitting there playing on their phone. That's a break, right? But if your partner can understand these and is caring, that's going to be helpful. One thing I find with women though that I just like want to like just listen to me right now, women. Because if this is you, like, please, like, can we just like try to change this message in your brain right now? We internalize so much that we are the problem. I have a low libido. I have a low libido. What's wrong with me? I need to
Hmm.
go get this treatment and this treatment and this treatment because I have a low libido. And we blame our low libido on ourselves instead of understanding that maybe the accelerators aren't being hit and maybe there's way too many brakes because of the environment in which we're in, aka maybe the partner that we are with. But
Hmm.
we're not seeing that it's the partner that's affecting me. I just have a low libido. It's my fault. And I feel this is just my opinion, but I do feel like women internalize and self blame so much more than men do. And men I see externalize and very much so look at how other people are the problem way more than women do. That's just my observations in life. And it is frustrating because I feel like we take on way too much blame for problems when it comes to intimacy and relationships. That's just my opinion.
Okay. No, but one thing I'll add to that is that I think that both people in a relationship also forget that there are seasons to every
Yeah,
relationship. And what's happening in this season isn't indicative of what will happen forever in your relationship. I mean, the scenario you gave earlier, the 3-month-old baby, yeah,
yeah,
they're probably not going to be having sex for a while, or the
no,
sex they do have is going to be shitty sex because they're exhausted and not really into it.
100%.
Um, but you know what? It's a season and it's expected and it's okay, and you will like come out of it at some point. But some people have the sense that like what's happening now is going to be like forever now, how, what happens in our relationship. And that's just it's faulty thinking. It's not true.
Yeah, that's really important. And that goes beyond just intimacy. That's just like life in general. And relationships in general is there are seasons and it's not permanent. It's trying to get through those seasons and again coming down to like understanding ourselves and our partner like this why are we in this season and does it make sense? Yes. Like normally it always makes sense. All it comes down to is just loving and understanding one another and being graceful with one another, especially when you're in a hard season. Um, but that's hard to do, and that takes a lot of emotional intelligence on both people's sides and communication. And that's where I think societally we're seeing a shift in that, but we're not there yet
Mhm.
fully. And so it's hard.
Yeah, it's very hard. I mean, societally, like a lot of things are shifting, and things are becoming more equal, and all like a lot of good things are happening, in terms of like family units and like gender equality and marriage equality and all the things. But there are still a lot of stressors that probably will remain outside of our control
Yeah,
as, as individuals in a relationship.
100%. Last thing that we'll go over, and then we can wrap up today's episode, is I want to go over some sexual stimulators. So, like, what are cues that women specifically found turn them on? So she gives some examples. It was a survey done by Katie McCall and Cindy Meston. Asked women what turned them on. And so the votes were what people said it was 4 categories. So I want to give you an idea of like what could be my stimulators from a women's perspective. So one of them, the categories was love and emotional bonding cues. So this is feeling loved, feeling secure, feeling safe in your relationship, feeling an emotional closeness to your partner. So think about like if you're sitting there talking and your partner's actually actively listening, they're um, maybe repeating what you're saying, they're reflecting, like you feel seen. That that for me, I know that's like a total turn on for me. If I can get my husband to do that. So that feeling of closeness, protection, support in your relationship. Um, the other one is going to be explicit and erotic cues. So this is going to be, if you think about it, like when you watch a sexy movie, of course, porn can be in here. Think about all of us women who read the erotic books, like 50 Shades of Grey. Absolutely. Like I know I can identify, like that is a turn on for me. I love my husband's always like, why do you watch these shows? I'm like, I just love them. And he knows that it turns me on. So he's like, okay. So he'll watch them with me. So that was another example they gave. The other one was visual proximity cues. So this is kind of more what Katie and I were talking about. So um, this is going to be like well dressed, a well toned body, somebody maybe who smells good. You can look at their confidence, their intelligence, maybe the class that they're in, but also visual proximity cues. A man who's also taking care of the house, like you're sitting there resting and he is doing a load of laundry, like that's also a visual proximity cue. So a man just taking care of, or it's also a sense of intelligence too, like, oh, you're able to do that. Oh, like my child needs something and you're able to just solve the problem and I don't need to. That's something that is also can be a turn on for us as women. And then the other one is romantic implicit cues. So this is the 4th category. So this is really good. I love this. Like dancing closely, sharing a hot tub or a massage, intimate touch. So watching a sunset, laughing and whispering together. So think about kind of those typical romantic things that we would deem. So the four main categories for women for accelerators, I'm going to go over them, just say them real quick, is love, emotional bonding cues, explicit erotic cues, visual proximity cues, and then that romantic implicit type cues. Just to give you an idea so you can start to look, I know in her book, she also has a quiz, just so you know, where you can actually take the quiz and see where do you fall on your sexual accelerators and brakes so you can get an idea of where you're falling. And it'd really be a good idea to have your partner do it if you are open to asking them that so you guys can start there. And again, like reading the whole book will be way more beyond what we're talking about now, but just something great, I think, to share with all of you guys to get your minds thinking.
Yes.
So, anything else, Katie, you want to add or?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered a lot of good stuff. And if you're interested in sex therapy, a lot of what Molly and I have been talking about are the things that like a sex therapist would discuss with you. Because as I said a million times, sex therapy is not about sex. It's about so many other things in a relationship that lends itself to a healthy sexual relationship. And so even though the words might not be used the way that we're talking about them here, it's about our brakes and accelerators. Like what makes you feel connected to your partner, what doesn't. And that's kind of the root of everything in a
It really
relationship.
is. Yeah. Yeah. So you're not broken.
No.
You are not broken sexually. Just remember that. Like we just all are a little bit different in how we're wired, and understanding your wiring and your partner's wiring is key to you guys having a really healthy, intimate life. So we'll see you at the next episode. Thanks for listening. Send us emails if you have any topics you want us to talk about, but we will meet with you all again soon. Bye. We are Dr. Molly Hart and Dr. Katie Schubert, and you've been listening to Sex on the Floor podcast. We really hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions and want to get in contact with us, you can follow us on Instagram at Dr. Molly Hart and at Dr. Katie Schubert, on Facebook at Pelvic Balance PT and at Dr. Katie Schubert. And for more information about us on our websites, you can find us at pelvicbalancept.com and at drkatieschubert.com.